And let's see snaps. So, snaps are, first of all, features that you can enable by clicking one of these buttons here. They are toggle snap, snap toggle, angle snap, percent snap, and spinner snap. First one, the one that is simply called snap, allows you to create or move objects by using points on the grid or points on other geometry to attach your mouse. Second one is called angle snap, allows you to make rotations with extreme precision just by using your mouse. Third one, percent snap, instead is the one that manages the percent of your scaling transformation. Last one, instead, spinner snap, is the one that allows you to use fields, parameters, fields and numbers in your modify tab with steps of certain values. So let's see how they work. First of all, when by default these features are not enabled, and you can see that these buttons are gray. So when you create a box, let's say like these, you can see that your mouse is free to go wherever you want. When you left click instead, first thing that you will notice is that the feature has the color that now is in blue, and it means that it is active. We can also enable or disable this particular snap by pressing the letter key on the keyboard. And if we right click with our mouse instead, we can go inside options of our snap, and we can set which kind of points we want to select in order to attach our mouse. For example, I will deselect everything and I will select only grid points just to start explaining how snap works. So now you will see that with snap to the grid and snap button enabled, my mouse is going to remain attached to these points on the grid. And if I make a box, you will see that the box will be modular of my grid lines, even in height. And whenever we need, we can right click and we can choose which points we really need to select or not. For example, I can select at the same time grid points and vertex. So now if I make my new box, I can start from a grid point, but I can finish it on a snapping point that is a vertex, and I can set the height by using grid points, or I can set the height by matching an existing vertex, and I will left click. What is also interesting is that snap can be toggled even while you are creating an object. So I can start making a box from a grid point to another, but then if I don't want the height to be snapped in a very precise way, even while I am creating the box, I can press S on my keyboard, and now even while I am creating the box, snapping feature has been disabled. And snap works also in combination with move tool. So when I move an object, by default I select move, and I have to use transformation gizmo to move it, while when I press snap and snap is on, this transformation gizmo, first of all, will always remain highlighted in yellow, so all three axes will always remain in yellow. And now, for example, just for the fact that I have grid points and vertex, I will be able to move my object by moving my mouse from the vertex that I want to use as a reference, and I can move this vertex on a grid point, or I can move my box from this vertex to this vertex, and this movement will be extremely precise. So I can be precise and fast at the same time just by using snap. When I right click on the snap, also by going to the tab that is called Home Grid, I can even change my grid spacing, because only by default it starts by being 25.4 centimeters, but I can change it in whatever value and how many times I want in my project. So let's say if I make 20 centimeters and then I want to see 15 perspective grid lines, when I close it, I will see that now my grid spacing is 20 centimeters in between each line. And if I make a box and I make it from here to here and I snap the height as well, if I check parameters, due to the fact that my grid spacing is 20 centimeters, I can clearly see that length, width and height are all 20 centimeters. Okay? At the same way, if I move my object from here to here, even if I don't type anything down in these numeric values, what I'm actually doing is I am moving an object 20 centimeters away from its starting position. And also, snap works even when I make duplicates. So even if I hold Shift on my keyboard and I move my object, my clones will be all 20 centimeters far from each other. As well as I can hold Shift and I can make a duplicate from this vertex up to this vertex, and all my clones will be 20 centimeters on the right and 20 centimeters up. I can then select as many combinations that I want for my snaps. For example, I can select the midpoint and I can uncheck grid points, so I will leave vertex and midpoint, and in this way I can quickly make something like this. I can make first box, I will make second box, and then I can move, for example, the second box from one of its midpoint to this other midpoint of my first existing box. Or I can move it from a midpoint to a vertex, and I can quickly use a snapping feature to make my life easier. Let's see second snap, the one that is called angle snap. So it works more or less at the same time as the previous one, just the only difference is that this will manage rotations. So when I select it, I have to also select my rotate tool, and starting from now, if I rotate my object, no matter which axis I rotate it, I will see that my rotations won't be as free as before, but all my rotations will happen in steps of 5 degrees. And this value is simply because when I right click on my angle snap, 5 degrees is this parameter that we see inside the option called angle. If I want for example, to make quick rotations, there are all multiple factors of 30 degrees. I can type 30 degrees in here. I can even leave my snap dialog box active. And now, if I rotate my object, my rotations will happen in steps of 30 degrees each. And as well as rotating my object 30 degrees, I will also able to make shift and rotate to make clones that have a very precise angle in between. Third step is the scaling one. This is very easy, and third step works with third transformation tool, that is scale. So we can even see into the same dialog box that we haven't closed before that now all our scaling transformations are happening in steps of 10%. And again, this is simply because 10% is the default value that is set in our snap dialog box. If we want, we can type 50 degrees, just as an example. And now, when I use scale, even if I make a uniform scaling transformation, or I just select one axis, I will see that instead of having a linear behavior, my scaling transformation has a behavior that is scaling my object in steps of 50% bigger or 50% smaller each time that I move my mouse. So, if you find this video interesting or useful, leave a like and let me know with a comment, and why not make me questions for other videos or suggestions, and why not subscribe for more videos like this. And as usual, have fun, bye!